Right, so we're just going to do a director's commentary of our film, talk about why we did certain things, talk about how we implemented Freudian's technique of id, superego, and ego into it.
What went well and what might need improvements if we could do it again.
And
Yeah.
how you feel about it overall.
Yeah, basically.
That's what we're doing now. That's literally the exact same thing we do.
Right, start off. Well, this scene, the only thing I wanted to accomplish with this scene is it's just very sort of mellow, sort of starting, sort of leaves a bit of like, oh, what's this going to be about? So I didn't want to like give a lot away within the first like couple shots. I just wanted to kind of set the scene, set the mood.
Well, what we wanted is to clearly show someone working away, doing a bit of typing, and that's what it shows.
Hi, I'm Jack, and as you can see, I'm kind of struggling to do my work here. You know, I don't know what to type. I feel like there's a lot more important things to do. YouTube, Facebook, memes to share. But I suppose if I want this grade, I kind of have to do this work. But then again, I guess one video wouldn't hurt.
Well, we decided to do narratively instead of like you physically talking, because the Freudian theory of id, ego, and superego is very like subconscious. Like it's all in your head. You know, it's sort of id is your primal desires, your superego is your higher self, sort of telling you all the right, and obviously the ego is what's sort of you sort of kind of battling between the two, figuring out what's right. So
as well as the audio just being cleaner from the microphone
rather
than from the camera.
Yeah, it was cleaner. It just thought it'd look better, and it sort of links in with the thought of, since it's subconscious, we might as well make it so it's a thought in his head instead of him actually talking.
Yeah, it also gives off a bit of exposition, helps the audience understand what's happening with the use of narrative rather than just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it saves us time as well. And the whole point of this bit is just procrastination. So the procrastination just showing again how the id sort of took over.
So I did it. I procrastinated, but I did it. I handed it in late, but I still did it. I feel like, did it pretty good. I'm just gonna go have a look now, see what kind of grade I got. I bet you it's an A star.
The reason why we actually showed the email is because this is the pinnacle point of the entire film. Like this is when things start to go downhill.
Oh yeah, because at the start, obviously, he's pretty happy going. He's alright, and then after this is when you start hearing said ego, superego, id, all that, and you'll see later on, we show the difference between the two is between mostly lighting and what kind of effects we put over the screen.
Right, going on. This is like when shit hits the fan.
Well, since then, work fired me, girlfriend left me, and, well, for my parents, they kind of kicked me out.
So this shot we liked for some fact, because again, this, as we were saying earlier, we use a lot of lighting cues. Light and use of voice and editing within Logic all compensates to like mood and emotion. So we use light predominantly as our main source of setting the mood. So for instance, this is a very dark, very ominous sort of scene of you walking down a long.
But you've still got that little glimmer of light from the lamps and obviously the headlights of the cars that went past, which kind of symbolise a beacon of hope that he still potentially has.
Don't worry, Jack. Everything will be okay.
And now that scene there, we decided there was a light going on the stairs, and you'll see later what this scene is leading to. It leads to a bit of like a cliffhanger ending. However, we chose the option for this character to walk past and around the light that was forming on the stairs and just carry on walking into the shadow. This was to show that he's following more of the id side, which would be darkness, rather than the superego side, which would be the lightness.
And then we blended, as it's cut from light to dark, we blended, each scene goes from light to dark to light to dark to show that, like, contrast, that battle in his head, that conflict between the id and superego. And we had Emily Hartwig voice the superego. I voiced the id with some After Effects and Logic.
And obviously I voiced the ego, because the ego was supposed to be your
Jack's,
own consciousness.
Yeah, Jack is the current actor in this, throughout the entirety of this film.
Listen to her. Actually, you're worth anything. You failed, Jack. You always will be.
How do we feel about the actual voice? I feel like it was demonic, maybe it's slightly tinny, but besides that, it gets the point across. The point across, exactly. It gets the point across.
The id is supposed to be the darker
he's
side
the evil
of your
one.
consciousness in your head.
Yeah.
No, don't listen to him. You have so much to live for and so much untapped potential.
Only problem I had with this entire stair shoot, all the stair shoots you see, is there's those mirrored domes. Is that when it comes to actually, when we came to filming this, the actual difficulty of trying not to be in the scene, because there's a lot of windows, there was a lot of like open airways.
A lot of reflections
exactly.
you could be seen in.
And obviously, since it was a public place, it was a car park, like making sure no one walked through and things like that. It was worth it in the end, but there's a lot of complications from where we started filming.
No, all your potential is wasted. You are worthless.
Enough. Stop doubting yourself and think about what you're doing.
You know what? Yeah, maybe I am important. Maybe I do mean something to someone.
Obviously, on this scene here, we used a point of view shot for when the ego was talking, which obviously would be the character himself. So the point of view shot was supposed to be, kind of a representation of this is the person who's talking. Yeah. The ego is himself that's talking.
Another problem, well, not so much a problem, but another thing that we faced filming this was that since there's like a lot of sudden change of light, because obviously like around the corners there's less light, and then as you come up the stairs a lot, like exposure, getting the exposure right for each shot, having to like change it between.
And
like,
the dark shots are really grainy.
Yeah, but the dark shots were very, very good. That's the only problem I had with them, because the rest of the dark shots has like lights in the background, so again it shows that there's that little bit of hope maybe left for the character you're watching.
But if we could do it again, obviously we would have to invest more in lighting, so boxes or ring lights rather than just our own flashlights on our phones.
That would definitely.
Stop worrying yourself and just end it.
Oh, you can see here just the grain and just the out of focusness, but then trying to focus it on the light in such a bit, like it doesn't come across well here, but it was pitch black when we started filming this, like towards the end of the night, end of the day of filming.
Oh yeah.
Jack actually made this music track. No little thing there. Used his own music. I was really happy with this tracking shot. Like just the smoothest of it. We used a gimbal to make sure that this was as smooth as possible. That was another problem. You can hear it. We didn't have a dead cat or a muffler over the microphone.
So wind was an issue.
Wind was definitely, because it was really windy the second day we started filming.
Especially up on top of the garage. It's quite high up, so there's less wind blocks.
Yeah, it was completely just, we were exposed to the elements, so we had to do as best as we possibly could. But obviously challenges, but I think we did quite well, considering. And obviously the mellow track in the background helped set that sort of mood. Again, all focused upon narrative story about the progression of his mood and how it's declining slowly.
Now the framing of these next few shots, which we will see, are mostly focused on the character's shoulders, because it's especially in cartoon films, the id and the superego are visualized by angels and devils on the ego's shoulders. So our point here was that we were going to green screen on our own little characters
Yeah.
to play as the id and the superego, but we had complications with trying to get hold of a green screen, so we couldn't initially really do that idea. But still, the idea is still there that we focused on the shoulders, which is focusing on the id and the superego.
So yeah. I think overall I was very happy with the shots that we took, because again it sets the scene. Like for instance, that panning shot there sets the scene of where we are. He's obviously in a very tall place, and obviously the big plot at the end of this is he's basically going to his life's gone to complete pot. So what he's going to end his life, and the whole point is we're setting the scene, setting the mood, setting this. You obviously know something's going to happen, but we don't make it obvious that he's going to end his life.
It's all implied.
Yeah, it's all implied. He doesn't physically say, "No, that's it. I'm done. I'm just going to end it." There's a lot of hidden meaning between everything we've done.
And you'll see, especially in these next few shots as well, the lighting, as we said, and use of effects perfectly correlate how the id and the superego are. So obviously Emily playing the superego is talking. We've got a much more lighter, kind of warm shot here, but in a few seconds it will switch to the id, and then I'm not entirely sure what effect you put on.
It was an ash over effect, just to kind of, because obviously on this sort of shot here, it's a very bleached white. Everything is bleached white, again show that sort of purity, that angelic sort of feel, to show a guardian angel is watching over you, trying to steer you down the straight and narrow. But then obviously as the id starts to creep in a bit more and take over, it gets darker, things become more bleak, less, and you can see that in how we shot it and the effects we put on after in post editing.
Think about your family. Think about your future. You have so much ahead of you. Please consider what you're doing.
And again, sort of little acting cues from Jack, again nodding, shaking his head, just because again he's rejecting it. That's all you're doing. You're rejecting the fact that everything's going to be fine, because like I said, your life is just completely ruined. There's no hope for you. At least that's what you think subconsciously. And you're showing that with little acting cues here and there. Again, little subtle, but it's like very impactful when you put everything together with the music and the effects and the little subtle things. It all becomes a bigger, more powerful message. Now this scene, this one was difficult for us because we didn't know actually, because we didn't want the id to talk again, because we felt like since we just did the whole stare thing and they went back and forth, we didn't want to do it again. We didn't want to carry it on and make it just kind of drag on a bit. It was good with what we did. So with this, we thought, as you can see, Jack, the character here, has already rejected the fact that there's going to be any hope. So the id knows he's won. So he's just laughing at him. So we thought that would be good, because instead of having again the back and forth, which we've already done, we can do a completely new take on it and just have him laugh at him, saying, "Yep, I've won. You're miserable," and that's what we want. The whole point of Freudian technique is that he thrives on chaos and he doesn't abide by rules, and he's like the primal urge and desires. So he's the one that tells you to do wrong, and he loves it and thrives off things going wrong and you being miserable.
And the only other thing that I'd say about this shot is, again, because we were supposed to have green screened characters onto the shoulders, but because they're not there and the shoulder is centre point of this shot with a lot of empty space to the right, but without the character there, it just feels a bit off. So if we could reshoot this again with the knowledge of knowing that we wouldn't be able to have the characters, I'd have it panned more to the left, so the character's more dead in the middle rather than just his shoulder.
But at the same time, I think like it works for us, because like in this shot, his face is like your face even is covered by your hair and your hood.
Yeah.
And so it hides his identity, disguises his identity to show that's it. He doesn't have an identity anymore. You know what I mean? He is the id. He is being fully taken over by this depression, by this evil, maniacal sort of being in his head, his own self-conscious. So I feel like why it wasn't what we wanted and wasn't ideal at the time, when we look back at it and filming, it really, really worked. So we liked it, and so we thought, right, it doesn't make full sense, but when you look deeper into it, start to look at sort of where things are placed, you start to understand, okay, I can see where they're going with this.
Now, apart from the music being abruptly cut off, which is another thing that we would probably have to deal with, this shot with these effects I really like, because it shows with like the blur and like the multiple layers, it's really disorientating. Just like the battle.
Like 3 different editing layers to put onto this, just to give that effect of this haze, this sort of like cloud over, and this doom and gloom.
Yeah, it'd be like I was about to say, the disorientating battle that's going on inside of this character's head with both of his subconsciouses, which is what we try to visualize here through this effect. So when you look at it, it's really disorientating to watch, which is what we're trying to convey through what he would be feeling.
At this point, the super ego has been completely drained out, so all you're hearing is the id. So he's,
Alright. I've made up my mind. I know what I want to do.
I think that's really powerful. Just the fact, because obviously everything you've said so far has been narrative, has been sort of postly added afterwards. But then I feel like this is the only part in the film where you actually speak. I felt like, at least for me anyway, I think that's very powerful. Like this, throughout this entire movie, I've not said one word, like on physical in the film. But then when you say that's it, I'm done, it's you speaking out, apart, like saying to them, look, I'm done being a part of your war. I'm done being stuck in the middle. I know what I want to do. Just let me do it. And I feel like that alone, just that conveys such a strong message. And I feel like that really worked.
And as well, it's all Enigma code as well, because it doesn't say what it is he wants to do.
Exactly.
And in the next few shots, you won't clearly see what it is that he wants to do, but it's also implied.
Yeah.
But it also leaves at cliffhanger at the end, because as you'll see, and I'll explain it in a minute, the look of euphoria that we were supposed to have on the character's face, it's either looking out in the distance, like ready to face the world and carry on trying, or is it a look of euphoria because he's happy that he's going to end it?
Yeah, there's a case of, did he change his mind? We don't know. That's why we left it on that cliffhanger, because it leaves the audience thinking. We didn't want to give such... We wanted to convey strong meaning and strong emotion, but we didn't want to give a full picture. And I feel like we conveyed that pretty well, as you'll see. See, as he gradually comes up to the edge, you start to get the idea of, oh, what's he going to do? Like, why is he looking over the edge? And with the heartbeat, adds that tension, that sort of like, oh, his heartbeat's really strong. Like, what's going to happen? You see Jack take one last breath, and then that's it. It cuts to black. And see, that is the perfect ending for me, anyway. Because I've made this film, you know, you made this film. We're both sat here now and we're both looking at it going, oh, what did happen? You know what I mean? If we know what we wanted to do and we made this film, even we're going, oh yeah, I wonder what could have happened. You know what I mean? So people who have no idea about what this actually was originally intended to be, to me, if we're sat here now currently going, ooh, then what are they going to be like?
Yeah, it leaves, in a way, I've just thought, you can leave it to your own id and superego to what actually does happen at the end. Because obviously we've been saying the id and the superego are good and bad. Because if you're more on the side of the id, you would think he did kill himself.
Yeah.
But if you're more on the side of the superego, you'll think that he's got rid of the id now. He's ready to face on the world. Yeah.
There's a lot of controversial thoughts, and I believe it's a very thought-provoking film. And overall, when we look at everything that we just did, then I'm happy with everything that we've managed to accomplish. The camera angles were a challenge just because of the lighting situation that we had to deal with, and also
trying to get Max to lean over the edge
yeah,
with his gimbal.
yeah. With the last shot, we had to get our friend was helping us, and he had a gimbal, and he leant over the edge and trying to just get that shot, that kind of pan round, just to see Jack's expression, his face, and it was a bit of a challenge, obviously, because no one wants to.
There's a lot of fear of dropping expensive.
Yeah, as I say, no one wants to put something that costs $300 plus, like obviously his phone. No one wants to drop that over the edge. Yeah, but I think overall I think we did really well. If you've got anything else you.
No, I think that's pretty much everything.
Now, when it comes to implying Freud's theory, I feel we could have done a lot more. Like we could have really driven home the fact that no, this is what it is. But as long as I feel like it's obvious, this is obviously a battle between good and evil, or depends on how you see it. Really, obviously there is a device there that shows he's obviously battling with the id and the superego, but at the same time, I feel like it's very strongly implied, but it's subtle. I know that's contradicts myself, but you can clearly tell something's going on. But compared to some of the films and
like Emperor's New Groove,
yeah,
with the actual visible id
and the ego and this
superego.
Famous example of The Simpsons, Devil Homer and Angel Homer. We could have.
That's all very clearly there, which is what
it's cliche.
Gonna go for.
Yeah,
but if you leave it all to the voices inside your head, I feel like it's more implications than what's happened. You have to pay a bit more attention. You can't be as much of a passive audience, otherwise you wouldn't understand
exactly
the voice stuff. Because if you're just listening to it without watching, you'd think the voices are actual people there talking to them. Because obviously they're different voices, they're not just all the same person like they would be in these cartoons.
Yeah, because it relates to people as well. Because I've had multiple occasions where I've looked at something like, oh, do I do it? You talk to yourself in your head. Whereas I don't have a devil and an angel pop up on my shoulder. So it relates more to an actual sort of conversation you would have to yourself. Because you when you're faced with that sort of peril of, oh, do I or don't I? You do have that conversation with that there is reasons I should, but then there's also reasons I shouldn't. And so I feel like it relates more to actual real life scenarios and situations. Now, we titled it Failure. And the reason we titled it Failure, because that can, again, with the whole point of this film, that can be taken multiple ways as well. Do you see it as a failure? But it can also be taken as failure. Did he fail because his life went to shit?
Or was it the id that failed? Was the id the failure? Was the superego the failure? Was the ego the failure? What in this
was the failure?
Yeah.
And I think that about wraps everything up. And I'm really happy with it.